I'm from Jacksonville, Florida, and I like to drive in Jacksonville. So in this episode, I'm going to show you guys why I like driving in Jacksonville over Orlando and Miami, why this is one of the most underrated places to do Uber in the state of Florida. So like and subscribe, guys. Let's get into this episode. I'm going to explain what I like about Jacksonville and how you can come here and make some money too. So in this episode, guys, I'm going to talk about Jacksonville. This is actually where I drive at mostly, but this is what I want to explain to you guys is I'm going to show you guys in this episode the best places to work, the best days to work, the areas to avoid, why our airport is actually really a pretty good airport compared to others. And I'm going to show you what certain times of the year this place has a lot of drivers come from all over the place. So stay tuned to the episode, like and subscribe. And if you haven't scanned that QR code for the Gridwise app, well, go ahead and please do that. It does help the channel. This is a paid promotion. So like and subscribe, guys. Let's get into the episode. I'm going to explain more in detail. All right. So guys, Jacksonville, Florida is like the biggest city in the U.S. land-wise. So we're bigger than Miami. We're bigger than Orlando. We're bigger than New York. We're bigger than all that when it comes to land-wise. But we do not have the population like Miami, like Orlando, which has its ups and downs, its positives, its negatives, stuff like that. So the good thing about Jacksonville is our airport. To start off, our airport really is not that hard. So right now you're going to be looking at a screen recording. Jacksonville Airport is on the north side of Jacksonville. It's right there off 95. It's pretty easy. Now our waiting lot is different than Orlando. It's different than Miami. Orlando, you have it in the middle of the airport. Jacksonville, our waiting lot is actually the Walmart parking lot. So you're already thinking, wow, Jacksonville is the biggest city in the US, but your waiting lot is at a Walmart parking lot. Well, Jacksonville is really like a big small town. It is a big city, but it has a small town vibe. It's really almost comparable to South Georgia with Florida beaches. That's how I would say it. And most people, if you're from here, you're from Georgia, you probably understand exactly what I'm saying. This is not the kind of Florida that you expect when you go to Miami or Orlando. This is night and day compared to that. But the Jacksonville Airport is not that big. Once you have two different levels. When you go up top, that's where you drop off people. That is the departing flights. You go on the bottom, that is the arrivals, the arriving flights, and the rental car pickup. Because you will get some rides from people that drop off their rental car, they get out at the same spot that you pick somebody up from the flight. So that's why sometimes those flights or those trips will be cheaper because they didn't land at the airport. They actually dropped their rental car off, so that price is going to be less money than if they had got off a flight. That's just how Uber does it. I don't know exactly why, but that is a little tip for you riders if you're trying to save money. But always remember, if I give you a tip, please tip your driver because it does help. So when you're at the Jacksonville Airport, you can see right there I'm showing it's got that little big kind of like design. Looks like a home plate if you ever played baseball. So that little thing, basically when you get off coming from south, you get off at 95 at the exit right there, you're actually in the waiting area or the staging area. As soon as before you even pull off, you will be put in the queue for the airport. Now if you're going to go straight to the airport, you have to go actually straight from Max Leggett Parkway is that one. You have to go to the other exit, which is up on the bridge, and it curves around to go to the airport. That goes directly to the airport. The other one, you have to go to Walmart or you have to go to a light. You have to turn around and come. It is kind of aggravating sometimes, but that's just how you have to do it in Jacksonville. Now the Jacksonville Airport is good for a few reasons. One, it is small. Jacksonville Airport is not that busy. I'll show you even on the screen recording right now. You only got 26 to 30 cars in line, and there's probably no Uber Black cars because they just never have hardly any Uber Black in Jacksonville. It is one city where Uber Black is not the best option for you to do it. That's why I'm not doing Uber Black, because of the fact I'd have to go to Orlando, Atlanta, Miami, or somewhere else in order to do it, unless it was TPC, but we'll get back into that later in the episode. So that's the staging area. It'll show you the cars, the flights, whatever. I always use Gridwise because Gridwise will let me show you how many people are landing. It'll show right there, look, you got 470, then you got 0 people landing in between 2 and 3 o'clock. So that's why I use Gridwise. That's why it helps. But that staging area is right there in Walmart parking lot. Once you pull in there, that's where you wait at. If you have a reservation, you have to go there in front of Walmart in order to start the reservation, or it says that, but you don't technically have to do that. I learned that early on. You could just sit wherever in that staging area, and then it'll tell you once they start the ride to go pick them up. But the Jacksonville airport is a very good spot because, well, let me explain it to you like this. It used to be a really good spot. Now it's not quite as good. It just depends, because the rides, they've dropped the rates, so all airports are going to be like that also. But our airport, the highest surge I've ever seen was about $29. That's on the driver app. You know, you have a surge for the driver app and you have a surge in the rider apps, two different things. The rider app doesn't go to us, it goes just to Uber. The driver app, it actually pays us a little bit more. Doesn't really go towards the riders fare as much. Sometimes it could, but not really. It's more so if they have that, but we don't get that. So there is two different surges. That's something a lot of people don't know. But that's on the north side of Jacksonville. Now the north side of Jacksonville, honestly, in my opinion, if you go over to a little bit to the left over here on the south side of the Jacksonville, you'll see how it kind of zoomed in. That's one of the Amazon warehouses, so there's a lot of people that get rides from over there. But anytime you go to this airport in Jacksonville, you need to hit that coffee cup, because when you get there to drop them off, it's going to give you rides to Amazon, other places. The only way to get a ride from the airport after you drop somebody off is to hit the coffee cup as soon as you drop them off, unpause it, and then by the time you loop around, you'll probably get a ride, or at least you'll get some offers. You might have to drive back to the waiting lot depending on how busy it is, but most times I don't always have to go all the way over there. It's only a couple miles. It's on the other side of 95. It can be a pain. But now I say that is because the north side of Jacksonville and downtown are areas I normally avoid. Even now, football games can be good, but there's so much traffic. The streets are blocked off. Sometimes the map doesn't know it. Trying to get over the bridge to the Acosta Bridge and the Main Street Bridge sometimes is almost impossible. There's a couple other routes to get out of there because you have a river that goes through it. But the reason why I say I kind of avoid downtown or the north side of Jacksonville is because that is one of the worst parts of Jacksonville. It's a lot of violence, a lot of crime, a lot of other stuff. Now, I've driven in that area, a lot of nice people. I've never had any issues, but as an Uber driver, I try to drive smart. I'm not trying to put myself in a position for no reason. So I try to avoid that area. If I do drop somebody off there, I'll pause it. I go straight to the airport because I don't live that close to the airport to make it worth my while to start off at the airport, or even just to go up there unless I have a reservation or I end up on that side of town. The areas that I usually work, now you got the west side, which I'm going to sit there and zoom in. That's over there. You have a naval base over there, NAS Jax. That's on the south side. That's over there by Blanding Boulevard, which is super, super busy all the time. I don't like working that area because of the traffic, and then it always pushes you way out west, and there's not that many rides. You're driving way far for no reason. It's not quite as busy. That's why I always say, just because there's a surge a lot of times on the north side of Jacksonville doesn't mean that's an area you want to go to. There's a surge there for a reason. A lot of other people try to avoid it because they don't want to deal with the headaches sometimes that come with it. Now, I'll say that again. I've driven a lot of people over there. It's not that bad. It's just I don't like to stay in that area because of the reputation it has. That's why I try to avoid it. Now, if I go to another city, if I go to Miami, yeah, I'm staying at South Beach, I'm staying at Brickell, I'm staying at all those areas because I'm not trying to go to the north side or any of those other sides and then have issues. That's why I don't have a lot of issues, because I try to avoid those issues. That's the easiest way to do it, is knowing your area. That's why I'm trying to give you a map and idea how this works. Now, the west side, I've worked over there too. It's not too bad. It's not too many issues, but it pulls me out west. It'll pull you out here to Oakleaf Plantation, Middleburg, all that. They do have rides out there, but they don't always pay that good. You're going to be driving a lot farther. It's not always worth it. I don't usually deal with it. I usually will stay on the east side of Jacksonville, which is Atlantic Beach, Jax Beach. I will stay in this area. I zoomed in, Beach Boulevard, 202, Atlantic Boulevard. That's the areas that I work in for a few reasons. The Jax Beaches is where a lot of the bars are. Now, you could go downtown where I'm showing you over here, where you see Beaver Street, all that. That is Avondale. That is Riverside. Now, Riverside is like the other part of Jax Beach. It's got a lot of restaurants, got a lot of bars. There's a lot of nice houses over there. But the problem with working that area, you always end up in the other areas that you probably don't really want to work in because you don't want to deal with a lot of the stuff that could come with it. I'm not saying it will, never had any issues myself, but you don't want to. I try to the reason why I don't have a lot of issues is because I try to avoid them, and I'm proactive of trying to avoid them by working in just certain areas. And it's not saying that those people wouldn't tip, don't pay, whatever. It's the fact that I'd rather work in better areas, and even in those areas, you're still going to deal with headaches, especially even in Ponte Vedra or Jax Beach. You're going to get people sick, drunk, you're going to get craziness. It is like that no matter what. I just find it's a lot easier, better people, better pay, better tips if you work in a better area. And I'm sure most people would agree with me on that. I don't try to down any certain area in a way. I just say this is, if you look it up and Google it, it'll tell you crime rate's high over here, this is right over here. So that's why I try to avoid that area, because I don't want to be put in those type of situations or deal with any of those type of headaches from people trying to pull something or do this or do whatever, get robbed, whatever. I'm not trying to deal with all that. So that's why I'll stay on the east side of Jacksonville. And if I'm wrong, you're mad, whatever, that's just how I am. That's what I'm going to do. That's what I'm going to do wherever I go. I'm trying to make money. I can't help everybody out. I can't do everything for everybody. I'm trying to make a living. It's hard as it is. So the areas you do want to kind of work: Jacksonville Beach. You want to work Beach Boulevard, 202, Ponte Vedra Beach. Now, once you get into Ponte Vedra Beach, that is St. Johns County, that is St. Augustine. But that's another thing about the airport. You might get rides to St. Augustine. St. Augustine is a tourist city, but the tourist type of tourists that go there compared to when you're in Orlando at Disney or iDrive is you got tourists from the United States, from other areas that are down there to visit. They tend to tip. There's a lot of short rides, but they all tend to give you $2, $3, $4, $5. So a $5 ride turns into $8, $10. You do a bunch of those real quick, it's not too bad. But there are certain times when it's busy, certain times when it's not busy. So that all goes into play too. But that Ponte Vedra Beach area, you're going to deal with a lot of younger kids, a lot of rich kids, a lot of kids from up north that are down there, whatever, that going bar hopping, they're going to Pete's, they're going to Surfer, they're going to Ginger's, they're going to all these different little bars and stuff. And that's how they do it. And there's good money in that, because when I tried that technique when I was in Orlando, all the little short trips, they were a lot less than the $5. They were like $2 and change, because you have a lot more people working and you have a lot that are taking less rides, so that drives the price down. In Jacksonville, we don't have as many drivers as you got in Orlando. We don't have as many as you got in Miami. So in Jacksonville, we're still busy, but we still get paid more because we don't have as much competition trying to pay for those rides. It makes it a lot easier. That's the best way to do it. Now, those are the areas you want to work in. St. Augustine's great. When you're at the airport, you might get a ride up to Fernandina. Now, Fernandina, usually you're going to get some locals that live there. It's a smaller little beach town. There's good money over there also. Now, when you go to Fernandina, especially on a Mondays, you're probably going to go from the airport, go to Fernandina. You're going to go to the Ritz or the Omni, because there's a lot of there's 2 resorts, but there's a lot of conferences there, a lot of business. So you'll get a lot of rides over there. A lot of nice little beaches, a lot of Airbnbs, a lot of stuff like that. So it gets pretty busy. Sometimes from the airport, you'll get a ride to Georgia. You'll get a ride up here to St. Mary's, or you'll go up into Brunswick. Now, Brunswick's only like an hour drive, maybe a little less. When you're doing that, you can't pick nobody up once you cross state lines. So for people that are trying to go to Georgia, that airport services South Georgia, Northeast Florida, all the way to Gainesville, all the way to Palm Coast. You're going to get rides all over this big, huge area from that airport, because it's the closest airport for that area. Otherwise, they're going to Savannah. If they're doing international, they're going to go to Orlando. So that's how that airport works with those. It's easy to navigate. You only got about 40 people tops waiting for a ride. When you're in Orlando, you probably got 150. That makes a huge difference. So that's the areas you'll end up going from the airport. Those are the better areas to work. Jax Beach, Ponte Vedra, stuff like that. That's where I work. That's where I prefer. Now, you do have Town Center and stuff like that. That's over there off 295. Town Center's not that bad. It's a pretty decent area. That's a way to go too. A lot of restaurants, a lot of hotels. You'll get a lot of people flying in for business that are staying there. Then you'll get people staying downtown at the Hyatt. But That's a little bit different. Football season, downtown can be busy on Sundays, but you got to deal with the traffic. It can be a headache. It's a lot to deal with sometimes. But that's coming from the airport. That's why I was trying to show you certain areas that you would go to, why I try to do that. So why it's better to work in Jacksonville is we don't have that much traffic. Now there's certain days of the week, certain times, certain areas are gonna be busier. When you get 202 and you get to 202 at 295, there's a little spot right there by St. John's Town Center. That'll be super busy when you're going north, say you're going to the airport. 8 o'clock in the morning till about 9:30, that area is clogged up, super busy. Now 5 o'clock in the afternoon, that area is going to be super busy too. So because it goes from bigger lanes to smaller, so it bottlenecks. That's what causes a lot of the traffic. Plus they're doing construction, so that's an issue. Now when you're going to Orange Park, 5 o'clock in the afternoon, especially on a Friday during the week, it's going to be 6 lanes, but super busy all over the bridge, all the way to Roosevelt, or when you're going over to Blandon Boulevard. So that's the areas you try to avoid. That's the difference with Jacksonville. It's a big city, but it's a big small town. So traffic in Jacksonville, I used to think was bad, but when I went to Miami, when I went to Orlando, I realized our traffic's not that bad. Our traffic is basically only certain times of the day, certain days of the week. You can avoid it. There's ways to get around it, so it's really not that bad. Now 95 during the week, especially during the day, can be hectic. It can be aggravating. Not always the best way to go. So you try to avoid that also, but you really aren't going to be dealing with 95 too much if you're not working the airport or working certain areas. I always stay on the other side. I usually deal with 295, 202, stuff like that. But now, when you're doing in Jacksonville, the good thing about Jacksonville is you'll get a lot of business people, surprisingly, going to Sawgrass down there in Ponte Vedra, or they're going to Fernandina. A lot of those people are going to tend to tip you on those airport trips, so that definitely helps. I always see that a lot. A lot of people in Jacksonville do tend to tip a lot. That's a good thing too, because those tips really come into play, really help out. So the thing about Jacksonville is a big city. It's spread out. You drive a lot, it's a long way around everywhere. So yes, it can spend a lot of gas going from places to places, but you can make pretty good money. I tend to make pretty decent money. A lot of times when I was just doing it full time, not doing the videos, I would definitely make a lot more. Now I'm spending time doing this, and that takes up some of that time. It does make it harder, but now you're going to go to days of the week you want to work. Well, Friday nights, Saturday nights are going to be pretty busy at Jack's Beach. That's going to be the area to work. You got all those bars, so you'll get a lot of rides out there. You'll get a lot of bar hopping trips from one bar to the other. The people going out to eat, stuff like that. St. John's Town Center. Now when you get later in the night, you'll have the people that work at those restaurants and those bars going home, whatever, so you'll get rides from them also. Airport will be pretty busy. Airports are busy on Monday and Friday. Sundays are pretty busy too, but the other days it's kind of hit or miss. Saturdays is the one day I probably never go to the airport unless I get a reservation, because it's just not that busy at that airport. Now Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursdays are kind of back and forth. You might get a reservation late at night, but it's not always the best. Mondays are definitely good, and Fridays are definitely good. Now there's certain areas that you'll work that are busy. Fridays and Saturdays, obviously with the bars, are good. If you don't like working that, Friday days are pretty busy, especially with the airport. Got a lot of people driving around, need rides to doctor's appointments, whatever, so it gets kind of busy on Fridays. Mondays the same way. Saturdays during the daytime is completely not that busy. It's dead. I don't start working till later in the night because I just work the bar crowd, because it's not really that busy. Now you could get a ride going to St. Augustine. You could stay down there. St. Augustine can be busy. The only problem is a lot of places St. Augustine people can just walk around, so they're not going to really get a ride unless they're going back to their hotel or they're coming from their hotel. So it can be busy and it cannot be busy, because it depends. There's a lot of spots where they're just going to be walking around. They're only going to need a ride when they're done, unless it's weather, unless it's raining, but it floods down there. You have to be careful, but they might need a ride to their hotel, stuff like that. You do get a rides all the way to the hotel when you're coming from the airport. Those rides are pretty good. Used to be better, but they're not too bad. So Jacksonville has its pluses and its, you know, ups and downs. Every city does. We don't have as much traffic. The airport's not that hard to navigate, and it can be pretty good. You just have to know the best times to do it. You got to use that Gridwise app because it helps you know when people are landing, because Uber will say it's busy and it's not. So it's not too hard to navigate. It's a lot easier for being a big city. We're not too small of a town. Like if you go to Gainesville, you'll get a ride to Gainesville during school time because a lot of those students will fly in. Gainesville trips don't pay too bad. Then when you get to Gainesville, you can hit their airport, and it's actually usually got a surge, and you can stay in Gainesville and work, because when students are in Gainesville, it actually gets a little busy. But if school's out, it's not going to be that busy. It is about an hour trip, so you have to be mindful of that. But also dealing with the airport, you've got to be mindful of the fact that if you go to Georgia, you cannot pick up anybody. So sometimes I do it. I used to live up there. I know people. I'll stop, say hi, something. Usually they tip pretty good. Sometimes they'll pay well. I'll just come back, hit the airport again. I usually kind of just do it because a lot of drivers won't do it because they don't want to drive back empty. I'll get rides to Savannah. I'm not going to Savannah. Savannah's way too far to not be able to pick nobody else up. I'm not doing it. Never have, never will. Unless I'm going that way once I start my trip, that'd be great. I'll take it. Otherwise, I'm not doing it. It's too far. Now, other areas, other times of the year, you know, football season, you got the Jacksonville Jaguars. You had the Packers in town. You had other teams. It wasn't too bad. The only problem with the Jacksonville games, you'll get a lot of people riding there in the morning to the game. They'll get reservations because they're going to tailgate. But when the game is over, you're going to get a lot of people that want reservations or a trip. There'll be a surge. They'll try to send you to go pick people up. That's when you got to think about it. Is it worth it? Because there's going to be a lot of traffic. Trying to navigate to pick those people up can be aggravating, because if they're not from here, they don't know where to go. There's certain routes that are blocked off. You can't get to them, and it makes it difficult. It's a waste of time. It's not always worth it, especially Georgia, Florida. It's one of the bigger times of the year in that city, but Georgia, Florida, people don't know. They're not from there. The roads are blocked off. You can't get to them. There's certain highways you have to get off and get on. There's one-way streets, stuff like that. It's hard to get to some people. They don't know any better. You try to message them, all that. Cops are telling you to go. They don't care. So it's a headache. Sometimes I just don't even try to go to the games. It's not always worth that extra price when I could just go hit the airport, not even have to deal with that traffic and make the same amount of money. Sometimes it's just easier. But the other event that actually is really good, I even made a video on it, is TPC. That's down there in Sawgrass. TPC is probably the best event that you have here. You'll see a bunch of Uber Black drivers here probably from Orlando or wherever that are down here to drive for that week. You'll have other drivers driving around with taxi signs that probably don't even have a taxi license or business or even drive for Uber. So you have to be careful with the scams. But TPC can make a lot of money. Monday and Tuesday, you're going to be picking up people. You're going to be driving them there. It's all business people. They all have clients. They're all there on a business expense, so they don't care what they spend. Hotels are expensive. But you're going to get people that are taken early in the week before the practice rounds start. You're going to be picking people up at the airport, taking them to Sawgrass or beach hotels. Great time for the airport. That whole week's busy. Now, once the practice rounds start, it gets a little busy. You'll have people going to it. You can work that early morning, make some money, or you can wait till like 12 o'clock and people start to leave and make some money doing it like that. That's what I did. Now, when you're doing TPC though, you're going to use that coffee cup. You're going to use that stop new request. Every time you pick somebody up, you're only taking rides that aren't going too far, so you can come back and hit it again, because the prices are so high. You're making so much money for not driving that far. There's no point of driving somebody back to the airport. There's no point of driving somebody down to Daytona. There's no point of driving anybody anywhere except for maybe to St. Augustine, because that's where it's at, so it's not too far, and maybe back up to Jack's Beach, maybe a little bit farther out to like Nocatee, stuff like that. Those good little areas. It's not too far. That way you can come back and hit that event again. I hit that event like 10 times or 15 times days in a row. All I did was work that event. I didn't even go out and work the rest of that night, because I made $300 or $400 in a few hours. Did just back-to-back trips. Once the event was over, once it was dead there, I went home. There was no point in me driving around anymore that night, because I done made enough money. I'm good. I don't need to put no more miles on my car. because sometimes that's when it goes into play, is when you make so much money. Yeah, you could keep working, maybe you'll make another $100, but you'll put a lot more miles on your car. Sometimes if you can make a good amount of money in a short period of time, what's the point of keep doing it if you could save the wear and tear on your car? Because you always got to think that more money, more miles does not always mean it's going to be worth it, because you're putting that more wear and tear on your car. That's taking more life out of your car quicker when you could kind of stretch it out farther. So you always have to be mindful of that. But Jacksonville, in my opinion, is an underrated city. It's really not that bad. You get a lot of decent people when you work that bar crowd. You get a lot of those little rich kids from Ponte Vedra and stuff. They got a bunch of money. Mom and daddy's got money, so they'll order rides. Most of them can be kind of, a pain, but most of them are nice. Most of them, I don't have any problems. Honestly, with me, I don't care. So even if they are rude, whatever, I don't care. Probably never see you again. Does not matter to me. I don't take it personal. You shouldn't either. But most of them tip. Most of them will have you, hey, can you stop at the store? And they'll pay you to do it. I tell them, don't add a stop. They just pay me. I don't ask for money. I just do it to help them out. You'll get a few people here and there that will take advantage of it. Big deal. It happens. But 9 times out of 10, it's worth it for trying to help these people out. Hey, can you stop by her house so she can grab some clothes so she can come to my house? Yeah, I'll help you out. And they usually pay you pretty good for that. They should. Why wouldn't they? Because you're helping them out. You know what their agenda probably is. So ain't nothing wrong with that. But hey, that's what I'm here for. Try to help you guys out. I'm trying to make some money too. They want to pay. Great. So Jacksonville is an underrated city in Florida. It's great. Now the summertime, it does kind of die off because of the fact all the snowbirds are gone. School's out. A lot of tourists don't really come here like Orlando and some other places. So St. Augustine could be a good place. You could switch it up. It's not too far. That's the good thing about Jacksonville, is I could go to St. Augustine and work for the day, still make money. Might even get a ride back from the airport from there. Or I could drive down to Orlando and work for that day. It's only 2 hours, not too bad. You do get a lot of rides down there. It's not always worth it, but if you're going down there to work for the day, it's an early ride. Why not? Because you can always go to that airport when you drop that person off, pick up another ride, work there for a few hours, and then drive back, and you made some money. You just have to be careful and down in Orlando, because dealing with their tourists, dealing with their different stuff, you got to do a different strategy for each different area. And that's what I'm going to start showing you guys. I'm going to be traveling to different cities in different states, in different areas. I'm going to show you what places to avoid, what places are best to work, what times to work. I'm going to interview different drivers in that area and get some of their expertise. So I'm going to show you guys the best areas across the state, the best cities across the state, and how much money I made the whole time I traveled across the whole United States while I did some Uber. Doing them in every city. I'm gonna work as much as I can. So like and subscribe. The GoFundMe's on there. And if you want to help out and GoFundMe with the first leg of the trip, I'd appreciate it. If you don't want to, no big deal. You want to sign up for the Gridwise, I appreciate that. If you don't want to, no big deal. I just put it on there. If you want to do it, I'm trying to help you. If not, it's fine. I understand. But still, like and subscribe. That does help, and I do appreciate it. I'm just trying to help you guys out, show you some different ways, think outside the box. But in my opinion, Jacksonville is an underrated city for a big city. It's a big, small town. It's really not that bad. You can actually make some money compared to some of the other cities in Florida. Now, Orlando is super busy certain times. Now if you're doing Uber Black, certain areas, certain cities probably better than Jacksonville. If you're doing Uber Black, Jacksonville probably not the spot for you. But if you're just doing Uber, Jacksonville really is not that bad. You can actually make some money. You just got to know the times, the areas to do it. During the week, it's pretty busy. During the daytime, nighttime's not always that busy, especially when it gets cold. The beaches usually busy on the weeknights, stuff like that. You just have to watch if they got a concert going on. The airport's busy on certain days it's not. Then you can always go to St. Augustine. So Jacksonville's not bad. I think it's pretty good. Check it out if you're ever in the area. Come work, give it a shot. And if you are from here, leave a comment. I'd like to know. And then if you're from another area, you got some ideas, I'll be there soon. If you want to meet up, let me know. You can DM me through the website. You can message me on YouTube, however you guys want to do it. But like and subscribe. I do appreciate it. Thank you.